Welcome to Digitized Spotlight. On this series, Winnie and I explore some of the latest trends emerging in consumer crypto and chat with those building at the forefront. In this episode, we're recapping last week in Singapore for Token 2049 and Solana Breakpoint. We'll also chat about the trends and themes we're watching for the rest of the year. To riff with us, we've got Regan from Lattice and Mark from M13, who have had some of the best takes on past conferences. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. The views shared are our own. All such views are for informational purposes only and do not constitute and should not be construed or relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. Okay, awesome. Let's kick this off. So Token 2049, Solana Breakpoint. I know we all have a lot of ideas. Winnie, do you want to start off here?
Sure. I can start off. First of all, I lost my voice completely and I'm just recovering from the Singapore flu alongside a lot of people, actually. Just the energy in Asia was very exciting to me. And sometimes you forget, being in North America, that the largest number of crypto users are actually abroad in Asia. The most number of whales are in Asia. And it's funny because the whole time I was there, people were like, in Asia, you're not considered a whale unless you have over 100 million on chain, which is just kind of different than what we think in the US. And then all the largest exchanges are there. So I think they have this trifecta of like exchanges, whales, retail, that sometimes in the US, when we're in our little bubble of like Williamsburg and Soho in New York and in the Bay Area where Regan is, it's hard to forget that it's easy to forget that a lot of users in Asia, and it's like a completely different playbook that they have out there. So I think for me, it was just very insightful to spend 2 weeks out there just to kind of see, how people are thinking, what they're excited about, and kind of the types of projects that they are excited about compared to what we see out here.
And in terms of projects, did you notice any difference, either in terms of the approach of how these teams were building, the categories they're focusing on?
The IP that's there and kind of all the crypto-powered entertainment that's kind of there. When I was in Korea, I also spent time with some of the K-pop entertainment agencies. And it's cool to think about how places like that have so much like anime, entertainment, music, talent that they're leveraging crypto to do interesting things. So for instance, Triple S, which is like a K-pop girl group, they're doing like $12 million in revenue this year from just NFTs alone, and all that's like non-financialized. So it was really cool to kind of see those use cases kind of break out in Asia that we don't really hear of here. To give you an example, I think there's like one user in Vancouver that spent $400,000 on NFTs that are worth about $2 to $3 each just to vote on specific songs that this girl group is going to present on. And I think that's super interesting, right? Like, I feel like we don't hear about that in that crypto Twitter echo chambers, but those are instances where I think a lot of Asia demographic are more focused on. And then karate was also there, which is another example of like crypto powered entertainment. And I know both Mark and Regan, you guys invested, so we were able to kind of see that in Singapore.
Yeah, it was an awesome fight, and it was just like the energy around it. I mean, I think seeing live entertainment that has like some crypto tie-in is really cool. Where can I get these Triple S NFTs? Like, is it like I don't know.
Buy them on this app called Cosmos. It's actually so sick. I'll send it to you. But there's two ways you can buy it. One, you can buy it on the app and you pay with Apple Pay. It's like $2 to $3. And the second
this is their own app, or this is like
their own app. Yeah. So
okay.
It's like their engagement app, right? So Triple S is the group. Mod House is like the entertainment agency. Triple S is the first girl group. There's 24 girls. And as part of the unveiling of the girls, they buy these NFTs to kind of vote on, who performs for what album.
There's 24 members of the group.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of common in like K-pop. There's like large numbers of.
I'm very far out of the loop on what's going on in Korean pop culture.
I was too. It's a whole different like beast out there. Like, I recently learned about kind of that whole process, but you have these trainees who kind of are part of these entertainment groups, and they train for multiple years. And then once they debut, they get chosen for certain groups. They have to pay back their debts first to the agencies, and then they debut in these groups. But yeah, oftentimes they're from 4 to 20-ish people. if you think about BTS, that's like a huge group too.
It is interesting. You're just so novel, like those types of IP or entertainment companies using crypto. It is like totally different from a lot of the like on-chain native IP that I think we've all been used to over the last few years. It's cool to see. I mean, it's foreign to me because like I just don't spend as much time or have as much experience in like categories like anime, for instance. But it's cool, and I think like this week highlighted that, or last week highlighted that a lot.
Yeah, and it remains to be said, like, whether it works. I'm curious to get both of your take for like karate on like what type of like crypto or token powered entertainment works. Because like there was like fan controlled football that we saw a couple of years ago where like fans controlled the plays, and I don't know of how that's working so far. Titan, which is another K-pop group that is just launched. It started by the founder's called Nicky Han. He was previously the CEO of SM Entertainment, which is one of the largest Korean entertainment agencies. He took it public, and they're behind a ton of very popular girl groups and boy K-pop groups. But he believes that, you know, fans should not have control of the direction of the song. They actually are not great at deciding, but he thinks like crypto should be used just for like fan engagement versus like actually choosing who performs what, who dances what, because he thinks like the mass does not have good creative vision and you should leave that to professionals. So yeah, curious to get what your take is, the three of you, on kind of where you think tokens can be used for these types of entertainment and IPs.
Yeah, well, if you have a industry professional like that, like they can probably dictate the creative, and for good reason, I think. Not to say the other approach can't be successful, right? I think it all just sort of depends on like the context of what you're trying to do, right? And I think you know, karate is like token model of just using it as sort of a vessel for people to, you know, wager, not bet, but like wager is such a, I think, an interesting, pretty novel mechanism, which is cool. So there's no like silver bullet answer. I don't think you could take either direction.
No, I mean, I think what's interesting about karate is that like, you know, the token like slowly is giving fans more control over the league, but it's definitely not like, oh, like trying to dictate like how professional fighters fight, right? As an example, it's about betting, which is kind of like how finance is already deeply integrated into sports leagues. I'm generally very skeptical of this like crypto idea of like, oh, like the next like great screenwriter is just sitting in, you know, on some fucking Discord server, and like if the whatever like crypto is somehow going to like enable them to like this meritocracy and they're going to come to the top. But like, I mean, there have been like smart teams that have raised money on this thesis of like these creator DAOs. But it is not a view I agree with.
I'm curious. I'm not familiar with how the karate token works. Can you maybe explain to me, maybe Mark or Regan, you guys invested there? Just because I know you use it to bet during it, and I saw there's a lot of price activity before and after a fight. But yeah, can you kind of explain how that works and how they make money?
So the gaming mechanic is called up only gaming, and the idea is really that like you bet, but you don't put your principal at risk. So essentially, for like any given fight, let's just say me and you have 100 tokens each. I bet on John to win, and you bet on Joe. Essentially, like the karate creates a prize pool for every fight, and if you're correct, like you get your pro rata share of that prize pool, and if you're wrong, you don't get any of the prize pool. You just get your principal back. And the way that the like obviously those tokens need to come from somewhere, and essentially people who don't vote actually get diluted by the prize pool. So it's essentially trying to incentivize you to bet on the fight, right? But like your principal is never at risk.
Yeah, it's called a no loss lottery. Is like the sort of Web 2 term that gets thrown around.
Wait, so how does your principal, I have not been voting for anything. So my karate has just been getting diluted.
You've been getting diluted.
Ow, but like, is it because there's more supply that's being given out? Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yes.
They increase the supply. So as a result, my value is less. Wow, I should be voting.
Yeah, and so your relative purchase power, right, increases over time the more active you are, right? And
wow, I didn't know that.
Inverse, right, on the other end.
Okay, that's good to know. What's the app that Karate uses?
It's just called Karate Combat.
Yeah, Karate.
Make sure I vote.
So yeah, when going back on your earlier question, I think like I like the areas where consumers have a lightweight way to kind of contribute or participate in the content process. And like that can be speculation or betting on content and streaming. It could be more curation. If we have an investment in Botto, where, contributors are able to select and help train which art is put up to auction by the autonomous AI artist Botto. So I think we're seeing it across many different angles. So definitely something I'm watching. I guess one other thing I saw a lot of in Asia is the big gaming conglomerates are launching crypto games or crypto blockchains. I think when I go to US conferences, I don't see as much of a presence from the large gaming players here. And so it seems like there's a lot more interest, let's say, in getting involved in some way with blockchain.
How do you see apps kind of working with some of those conglomerates in the early days as they launch their own chains? Or have you seen any interesting folks kind of building on those new chains?
So I think a lot of them are actually gaming studios that have had a successful track record in Web 2. So maybe like some of these Korean entertainment companies where they're launching games, maybe leveraging some IPs and bringing them to either a blockchain or just launching crypto gaming kind of divisions. So that's definitely something I noticed.
I have noticed more willingness for Asian gaming companies to experiment with crypto than in the US or North America. And I saw that, or that was sort of reinforced last week.
Yeah. Well, do we want to move on to another topic? I think, there's a lot of momentum around Solana. Obviously, they had their own conference. Any takeaways from the group there?
I can start. I think. So I went to both Token 2049 and Breakpoint. What was interesting, Token 2049 to an extent kind of just felt like any other B2B SaaS conference, right? There's a bunch of booths and not a lot of rhyme or reason.
Felt very boomery.
Yeah, kind of, like a Money 2020. But a huge percentage of the talks and speakers that I saw were affiliated with the Solana ecosystem. So it's interesting to see just how much mind share that ecosystem has, I think for good reason. And then Breakpoint was physically a much smaller event, but felt I don't know, the attendance numbers, but felt super packed, right? And there was definitely more of a cohesive sort of, I don't know, strategy or vision, I think, to that conference. So it was just some peculiar differences I noticed.
Yeah, I definitely felt like Breakpoint, I didn't go to the conference for Token 2049, but Breakpoint felt very well attended. That's in the sense that everyone was actually there, either, walking around, hanging around the conference area, which I do like that feel. It definitely feels more like an ecosystem. FarCon kind of felt the same way, right? You actually had people who were more involved and who actually wanted to listen to the talks versus just kind of setting up meetings on the side.
I think it's just kind of how conferences naturally evolve. Once you get to some certain scale, they suck. I don't think there's a way around that. And so I was not there. It seemed like they did a really good job. I think some of the smaller Ethereum conferences like DevCon and DevConnect,
Sure.
It's kind of a similar cool vibe. But yeah, I feel the conference business in crypto has been a very profitable one, but is hard to scale and do well.
Yeah, you either die, what's the phrase? You either die early enough to be the best conference, or you live long enough to just become Money 2020, or
yeah, I know it's probably something like that. I think an interesting takeaway, and maybe I'm trying to draw the conversation away because I was not at Breakpoint, but it feels like Solana has really cemented itself behind Ethereum as the very clear second leader in crypto. And then you kind of have this wave of like Telegram, very focused on like gaming, kind of like just very easy seemingly to like launch quick games, has distribution. You have Berachain and Mega ETH kind of like coming up on the EVM side. The question we talk about internally is like, where does that leave everyone else? Like Sui's had this big run up over the last week, but like it feels like if you're any other generalized kind of high throughput blockchain, you're kind of getting squeezed on all sides. And it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, what I do appreciate about some of these new L1s and even like L2s that are launching is there's like a whole ecosystem of 10 to 12 ventured back startups that are merging alongside mainnet versus like with Aptos and Sui, like you mentioned, they very much had their own, mainnet, and then people funded the first generation of apps. Whereas this time we know kind of the first few apps that are launching on Berachain. There's like Puffpaw, there's a few others. We know the first few that are going to be on Monad and Mega ETH, and they all have some sort of like vibe, ecosystem, mimetic feel to it, which is interesting to see.
There is a vibe.
And it begs the question, why are those chains popular? Just because they're new, right? And like, what does that do to the sort of like alt L1s of yesteryear, right? From 2 years ago? Like, are they just not flashy anymore? Tough to say. Right, you look at the price action of like Sui, right, over the last, week or so. It's just ripping. And I don't know what the data is to back that up on terms of like user adoption or developer adoption. I don't know, it's crypto, so like I don't believe any of those stats in the first place. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think that the reason that these newer chains have established ecosystems prior to launch is almost they have to. Like they need to cultivate some sort of community of developers just because there is so much competition. And so I think like we've seen a shift from, I would say more of like a grant strategy to a like incubation strategy where all of these chains have teams that are running like incubators and accelerators and finding teams and helping them get funded. And so I think that that's kind of what we've been seeing. But yeah, I agree with you, Margaret. Like, I don't know, because these like chains don't necessarily have, like, maybe they have some technical edge. But I think for the average developer team, I don't know if it's like so compelling. Like we've seen teams move off chains all the time as one chain became hot and another wasn't. So I think, yeah, like once you lose the first mover advantage, once these teams are no longer maybe like as helped by the core team, I'm not sure if you have, such an edge in a year or so. But I think that's what they're hoping, is that they've sort of already cultivated an ecosystem.
And you bring up a good point. Like, I think it's a net benefit that the market increasingly is moving away from just like the traditional grant model, right? And I think it's like hard to figure, it's like historically has been hard to figure out, why did a team choose to build on this chain, right? And I think like the prevalence of grants can sort of obfuscate like how much true product market fit a chain has. It's like, did you build there because like you think it was interesting tech, or like you just got money? And I don't know, who knows if that matters. Like, a builder is a builder at the end of the day. But I think it's good though.
No, I think it's interesting that there's almost like I was thinking about this in the context of like the Blast launch, right? Which like, I mean, let's ignore the details. Like I think generally people were disappointed with. And ironically, it feels like there's almost like a flight to quality of app developers for chains that are not financialized at all, right? Like you think about like, hey, like you are super fucking ambitious and you want to build the best thing possible in the EVM. If you don't want to worry about like underlying people farming shit, blah, 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 like you just go to base, right? There's no token, there's not going to be a token, and there's like a lot of users. Or you go to Solana, right? Where like there's not really just a pot of token incentives free to deploy there. So I think some of these like chains will have some success early on. I mean, like Berachain may be a good example of like, you got the Berachain baddies, like they kind of curated a vibe. But I think if you're like, hey, I want to build like a consumer app for the next decade, chasing like what's hot now in crypto, like honestly, is probably a pretty dumb idea.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's kind of what I was going to ask. Is like, if you guys were to start something today, what would you build on? And I think a lot of people will default to Base or Solana. I think it's worth also chatting about, on that note, kind of TON and just kind of the first few, because Catizen launched on last Friday on TON. They went, their token is now trading at about, I think, 750 million FDV, which is interesting because they're the first, I mean, after Notcoin, which was like one of the clickers, and Dogs, which is a meme coin, they're the first kind of game to kind of have that first mover advantage and be listed on Binance and at 750 million FDV. So I'm curious to see how this next generation, like that's kind of the first era, this next generation, second era of like Telegram games will fare, because they don't have that first mover, advantage that Amanda mentioned, right? And will Catizen, I'm curious to see how Catizen, the Caddy token, will kind of, allow the Telegram ecosystem to kind of grow, and whether that other tokens will kind of follow that same like path or not.
I need to play it. I don't know. I feel like all these, it's annoying in the US, like with the US number, all these the Telegram apps.
You probably can't get it if you have a US number. You have to, there's this website that allows you to buy a Telegram. I'll send it to you later. But you have to buy a foreign number to get it. But I played it for like a good, hour when it first launched, and I got like 30 caddy or something, not even that much. But it's basically like they reward you for combining cats. And I think you get more of an airdrop if you end up purchasing money and putting like making in-app purchases. So I didn't get that much. So I didn't even bother claiming it.
I mean, you're effectively describing just like hyper casual mobile games, right? And that market has proven time and again how huge it is, I think, over the last, decade. So like, I think it is a business model, like, yeah, that's a financeable category, or like
where I disagree is like people, it's actually like almost an ICO in some ways, because what ended up happening for Catizen is people knew of the potential airdrop. So they were spending all these in-app purchases on this game, knowing that they'll make, something there. And I don't know if the second, third wave of the similar app will be as interesting. I don't know. That's just my take.
So they will just get farmed for like a week. Yeah, they launch and then just move on.
Yeah, and they're part of the first wave, like what Amanda said, like, and it's going to do very well. But can every single one after that achieve the same level of success? I feel like Binance won't list all of them, right? They won't list the third, fourth clicker game or.
I mean, there's already been some clicker game launches that weren't as successful. I would say that I think like what Catizen is aiming to do is be this like kind of casual gaming app store, like a Zynga that you saw on Facebook, but within Telegram. And I think there's going to be like probably a few winners of those, but like they're now launching an app store where all these other games and developers, it's like they're going to cultivate this entire third party ecosystem. And so I think like there's going to be like many more games launching, and they're going to be going where there's good distribution, and there's going to be a few players that are like that. The other thing I noticed, so I was at a Ton Asia event at Token, and like there wasn't any talk around Pavel or Telegram. There was like a lot of people there, quite packed as well. Like a lot of people building on Telegram. I think a big emphasis also sort of on the mini app segment. And then I also learned about this new chain called Kaya, which is essentially you're saying, from Line and Kakao. Yeah, exactly. So they have like 250 million users across those two apps in South Korea and Japan. And they're essentially now trying to do the same playbook as Ton, which was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's quite smart. I mean, any, messaging, social media messaging app should kind of follow that playbook with WeChat, Ton. Line and Kakao are very popular in Japan, Taiwan, Korea. And I do think they already have that behavior. There are already mini apps on those, both those chat apps, but they're not monetizable. And I think with Kaya, they are going to be.
It's cool to see. I mean, I feel like distribution is what crypto products have struggled with. And at least in theory, like distribution's built it from day one. So I'm excited. Once I get my Albanian number, or whatever Winnie hooks me up with, I'm excited to see what's going on there.
Cool. Yeah, you can actually, so you can try all of the mini apps and Telegram bots without having like with a US number. You just can't have the wallet integration and like claim the airdrops and yeah, so on. So you can still kind
I
of
mean, what am I doing there if I'm not getting the
Yeah.
airdrops?
What's the point of that? Doing all the work.
Man,
if it's from a more research perspective. But yeah, I mean, I think that's why the developers that are building on Ton, if we're talking about kind of where different developers are going, they're typically either Asian or Eastern European. We're not seeing the kind of Western audience as much there. Cool. Any other kind of takeaways from token ecosystems that stood out?
a lot of ton. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add one last one, and then we can go into trends. I feel like AI crypto is probably the top category at this conference of token, at least. Just like tons of side summits and a lot of discussion around BitTensor as well. As I think they had a community meetup. So I think we're continuing to see a lot of excitement around decentralized AI. This conference was one of the kind of, I guess, marks the end of Q3. So we're almost in Q4 and the end of the year. So what are people sort of watching as we go forward? Yeah, if everyone wants to share like one thing.
Poly market. That's what I'm watching.
What's going to happen after November?
Yeah. I don't know. I hate to be like, I feel like the most annoying investors are always like, oh yeah, we're watching how the election plays out. But I guess that's probably true.
I think like Deepin is exciting right now, which is lame. Like I think lame to say because it's I guess like kind of consensus. But I think what's cool about Deepin is that it's like a little bit less reflexive than something like DeFi. Like you have all of these experiments in very different industries where like whatever is happening with Helium like does not impact like Hive Map. Well, they're like kind of close. So maybe that's not a good example, but like you have a lot of different experiments in very different industries. And so I feel like even like 5% of these things that have like raised money, like starting to work would actually bring like, tangible use cases as investors always ask me about. Like it would actually move that conversation way forward. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens there.
It is interesting, like, because it is like that was a big trend highlight of last week in Asia. Like there's a lot of Deepin events. But you bring up a good point. Like there's a lot of new business models popping up in the space, but like there's not yet like consensus on the best practice, right? And they're all so siloed, like they operate in different industries and different parts of the real world, right? And so like they don't all sort of feed off of each other. So it is cool to see everyone trying to figure that out in real time.
I would say stablecoins was like another kind of real world use case that came up as well with Deepin. So hopefully we see more progress in investing across that as well. I think for me, something I'm watching is, so we had invested obviously with Regan in IYK a few years ago, kind of seen the emergence of digital physical and connecting kind of real world activity. I'm seeing more of that now with this trend around like either wearables or consumer devices. I think like Solana Mobile was sort of the success of that has driven like more phones across different ecosystems. I think Puffpaw came up, which, vape to earn. I'm now seeing a number of Game Boys, like kind of where you can have better distribution for crypto gaming across chains. So like interested to see if any of these products break out, but quite interesting.
Has anybody ordered the Solana phone?
I did.
Oh, I kind of want to order one.
No, I didn't order it. Are you excited to use it, Amanda? Is it going to be your main phone? Or are you just going to use
no,
it?
I won't be. I actually ordered it like when it first came out. So before they made the announcement about the Solana Seeker and everything.
What new apps are everyone playing with and having fun on?
Speaking of like wearables and all that, I've been
Oh, receipts. Ooh, you're a receipts.
I'm a receipts guy.
You're a receipt leader. Guys,
This is like the Strava, the
Yes.
crypto Strava thing, right?
I was like number 5 on the global leaderboard a couple weeks ago. I've been slacking since I was traveling, but like I'm trying to dominate that leaderboard. So
you guys want to know something really funny? So I'm a low impact workout girly. So my heart rate doesn't go up. So I go to Pilates, and the only time I did very well in receipts was like randomly I checked. I'm like, why do I have like 200 points? And it's because I went out really hard for a very long time. So I only get my points when I go to the club because I'm obviously drinking and dancing the entire time. And now my receipts rewards me for like, the wrong incentives. So I was like joking my team, I should go party more.
Yeah, the Iggy Azalea party, the heart rate was just pumping.
Yeah, for like everyone, it's like ride, run, strength workout, and for mine it was like other. I thought Grab was super interesting in Singapore on the topic of that. The fact that we could pay with crypto, I feel like no one talked about that. I loaded up my wallet using Ethereum, and I was able to pay for some of my rides with crypto, which is sick.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, it was very.
Well, what was the crypto version there? I feel like I had on my phone.
What do you mean the crypto version?
There was some like token incentivized. Say it again.
Was it Teleport?
No, it was something in Singapore.
Was it like a crypto grab?
Shout out!
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Another one that I've been using a lot. This is like not new, but I honestly have been using Zora more than Instagram. I looked at my screen time, and my Zora app actually was like much more than Instagram. And I just checked before this podcast as I was writing it down. Over the last like 2 weeks, I made like $300 on Zora, which is pretty insane for someone who's just posting my silly little pictures.
All right, I'm going to check this out. The crypto grab is called Tada, Tada.
Oh, I've never heard of it. I should check it out.
I don't totally know what the deal is or what tokens are paid for the rides, but I guess there's like, I don't know, some token incentivized, some taxi there.
Interesting. So I feel like I've downloaded so many Chrome extensions or desktop clients, mobile clients, like farming various deepen projects. So most recently, the Gradient Sentry, which was announced at Breakpoint.
What's the one-liner for what the Gradient Sentry is?
So they're building an edge compute network. And so they say that the Sentry is helping like measure and ensure the global liveliness of resources on the network.
Cool.
But the experience is quite similar to, let's say, a grass.
Cool. Send me your link. Drop the referral link. Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. This was great.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure to be here. It's fun.
Yeah, this was my debut, I think, but thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Cool, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Digitized Spotlight. It was so fun recapping Token 2049 and Breakpoint with Mark and Regan from M13 and Lattice.
Yeah, I really enjoyed all the insights they had on the past week.
Cool. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.